ask the inmates in the jail, raise your hand if you are a special ed student. Raise your hand if you were ever classified as reading disabled. Raise your hand if you were ever classified as math disabled. Raise your hand if you was ever attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, emotional disturbance, intellectual disability. And when I asked the inmates in the jail to raise your hand if you were ever in special education, nearly every hand goes up. So why we keep putting our children in special ed, Alabama? And you know what's so sick? Some of us are putting 3 years old in special ed, 4 years old in special ed. Why do I have children in kindergarten being sent to me for psychological evaluations? The boy is 5 years old. Can we give him a chance to learn first? And I'm not just going to blame the white power structure. I'm going to blame you too. Because when I come into the black household, I don't see no dictionary. When I come into the black household, I don't see no thesaurus. When I come into the black household, I don't see no encyclopedia. When I come into the black household, I do not see the reading material that is necessary in order for our children to improve their working vocabulary skills. In the United States of America, a black child's average working vocabulary is 2 grades beneath their class standard. You got a 9th grader, but he talks like a 7th grader. You got a 5th grader, he can only understand language like a 3rd grader. You got a 12th grader, can only comprehend like a 10th grader. And why do black children have such a gap between their grade standing and their vocabulary level? Because us, you, and I are not making our children read, study, and practice at home. But everybody got a cell phone. Everybody got TikTok. Everybody got Instagram. Everybody got Facebook. I'm willing to bet you that most of you, when you bought your gifts for Christmas, when you bought your children their Christmas gifts, I'm willing to bet most of you didn't buy a single book for Christmas. I'm willing to bet most of you didn't buy a single book for their birthday. So we, as black parents, black community, we are complicit in the school-to-prison pipeline. Let me say this. I want every parent to hear me and hear me well. If your child has a reading disability, math disability, that is nothing more than a professional opinion, a working hypothesis. It is not a scientifically provable fact. You say, my son got a reading disability. Prove it. My daughter got a math disability. Prove it. When I take your child out of the classroom and bring them to my office for a psychological evaluation, I give them an intelligence test, I give them a reading test, I give them a math test, I give them a writing test, I give them a psychological assessment, an emotional assessment, an adaptive behavior assessment. I interview the mother, I interview the father, I interview the teacher, I observe the child in the class, I review the records. And I look at all this data. And as the school psychologist, my job is to determine whether or not I think there's a reading disability, whether or not I think there's a math disability, whether or not I think there's a comprehension disability, whether or not I think there's a behavioral disability. It is only an opinion. No blood tests, no CAT scan, no X-ray, no MRI, no urine sample for a child to qualify for special ed. You know what that means? Black Alabama is going to hell like black America is going to hell because we're letting the opinions of white people dictate our children's academic destiny. And let me say this. If you were to believe your child got a reading disability, would you please keep that to yourself? If you believe your grandson got ADHD, will you please keep that to yourself? If you believe your daughter got an algebra disability, will you please keep that to yourself? Why would you tell your child that they have a disability that they can't even prove? Why would you tell him he has ADHD? Why would you tell her you got a reading disability? When you share these diagnoses with your children, you create a self-fulfilling prophecy beyond which they will not try. They will not try. And you know what's sad? Most of our children only need a tutor. Most of our children, summertime is coming up in Alabama. Your son can't read on grade level. That boy need to have a tutor all summer long. He only needs 2 days a week. 2 days a week, 90 minutes a session, he'll be reading above grade level. 2 days a week, 90 minutes a session, she'll be counting above grade level. So why are we putting black children in special education when all they need are tutors? Because we as black parents are as lazy as our children. We as black parents are as lazy as our children. When is the last time you took your children to a public library? When is the last time you had a quiet hour in your house? When is the last time you checked homework? In fact, homework is becoming an endangered species in the black public school. Because what the white teachers are doing now is because black kids don't want to do homework and black parents don't care if they don't have none, white teachers are rewarding black children for good behavior with no homework. So the reward for controlling your behavior is a miseducation. That's where we at right now. And then we got this thing called ADHD. Ain't no daddy at home disorder, ADHD. And the reason I call it ain't no daddy at home disorder, 85% of black boys diagnosed with ADHD, conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and disruptive behavior disorder don't have a father figure in their life. This is not a psychiatric disability. This is not a psychological disability. This is not a neurological dysfunction. ADHD is nothing more than the mass incarceration of black fathers, and you lock the father up. You leave the boy at home to be raised by his mom. Being a disciplinarian is not the natural job of a mother. And so now he goes to school and can't sit still. We want to call it a psychiatric problem. And why do we want to call it a psychiatric problem? Because the Wall Street drug companies make $30 billion a year doping up black children with Ritalin, doping up black children with Adderall, doping up black children with Concerta, doping up black children with Medicaid, doping up black children with Risperdal, all with your permission. Because guess what, Alabama? We cannot diagnose ADHD inside of a school. That's clinical psychology. The only thing we can do in the school is school psychology. I happen to be trained in both, so I go between both worlds. I do clinical evals and I do school special ed evals. So if your child is in special ed for ADHD, do you know what that means? That means you went to a clinic or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a licensed social worker. You got your child diagnosed with ADHD, conduct disorder, ODD, and you were dumb enough to take the eval back to the white folks and tell them. Because if you don't take the eval into the school and tell them my son was diagnosed with ADHD at the hospital or the clinic, they can't put him in special ed. So any child in special ed for ADHD is only there because their mother and father took that report from outside the school into the school. And some of you might say, well, my son got ADHD, the father is home, so when you say ain't no daddy at home disorder, that don't apply. Okay, so it's ain't no discipline at home disorder. Daddy's home, but there's no discipline. You can be physically present and parentally absent. And if you say discipline ain't the issue, I know what it is. It's artificial diet at home disorder. We pump our kids full of sugar. We pump our kids full of caffeine. We pump our kids full of red and green food dye. We pump our kids full of high fructose corn syrup. And then we send them to a school with no recess, no class trip, no opportunity for this natural physical energy to be worked off. And now he's diagnosed with ADHD. Not because something's wrong with him, but because the parents got him addicted to sugar and the school ain't got nothing for him to do. Come on now. You want to fix the schools in Alabama? Give every black boy a black male teacher. Guess what the United States Department of Justice found out Alabama? Madison County, Alabama. Where's that? Right here. This is Madison County? Well, in Madison County, the U.S. Department of Justice found that black children are being systemically excluded from advanced placement classes, college prep classes. They are being overly suspended more than white kids for the same offenses. And they also found in Madison County, Alabama, that your county has more schools without a single black teacher than any other county in the state of Alabama. The state of Alabama got 43 schools that have desegregation orders with the U.S. Department of Justice that they're not even following. White folks keeping black kids out of schools they don't want them to be in. And guess what? The bigger Huntsville grows, because you're one of the fastest growing cities, you're the largest city, and you know what that means? Gentrification of black folks. Gentrification is starting in Huntsville now. They're starting to push our people out. Everybody's moving to Huntsville, and that's raising the cost of living up, and your mayor and your governor isn't doing anything to guarantee affordable housing for our people. While the NAACP stays quiet. While the Congressional Black Caucus stays quiet. But I also have to blame you because we have been disorganized since Dr. King. Black folks haven't engaged in a serious, comprehensive move for justice since King and the Panthers. Civil rights, black power, 57 years ago, we have done nothing but got comfortable with our college degrees, homes in the white suburbs, cell phones and social media, and our children are suffering because of it. Another thing y'all better be careful about, a lot of your high schools in Alabama, just like ours back up north, are being stripped of the industrial building trades. Brothers and sisters, not every black child needs to go to college, not every black child should have to. Up until 1970, you did not have to go to college to live a decent life. You had an industrial building trade education. Grandpa was a plumber. Grandpa was an electrician. Grandpa was a carpenter. Grandpa was a welder. Grandpa was an auto mechanic. So why can't his grandson do the same thing Grandpa did? Because they're taking the programs out the black high schools so only the white children get the skilled trade preparation. Now see how this go? And they tell the black kids, all your children got to go to college. So you send your children off to these universities. They pick up all this student loan debt, come home, $60,000, $80,000 in debt, and can't even find a job to pay it off. If it was up to me, every child in Alabama would go to trade school. You know why? Because trade school is only 2 years. 2 to 3 years. You want to be a lawyer? No problem. You will be a plumber first. You want to be a nurse? No problem. You're going to be a carpenter first. No problem. You want to be an engineer? No problem. You're going to learn how to be a roofer first. Because if you don't finish college, I still need you to be able to feed your children. So I'm going to make sure you got a skill that can pay the bills before you go to college and pick up all that debt. Good plan. Good plan. And what do they do to black folks? You go get your bachelor's degree, you go looking for a job, they tell you you're underqualified. You go back, get a master's degree, you're still underqualified. You go back, get a doctorate degree, first you was underqualified, now you overqualified. What the hell is overqualified, brothers and sisters? How about white folks was not going to hire you anyway? They just gave you the runaround until you woke up and smelled the coffee. We don't need everybody going to college unless you can answer these 3 questions in the affirmative. Number 1. Your child should not be going to college unless you raise them with the discipline to finish. Come on, brother. Come on, brother. Oh. Come on, brother. What is the black parent's number 1 responsibility? Come on, brother. Your number 1 responsibility is to teach your son and daughter discipline. Because I don't care how much talent they got. I don't care how much brains they got. I don't care how many skills they got. If your son or daughter don't have discipline, they will fail. And what is Dr. Umar's definition of discipline? It is the ability to do what you don't want to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. And if your son or daughter don't have that, if they don't have the ability to put the phone down and study for that test, if they don't have the ability to stop playing outside, come in and do their homework, if they don't have the ability to put down TikTok and Twitter and prepare for that book report, if they don't have no discipline, they will fail. Emotional discipline, financial discipline, academic discipline, sexual discipline, emotional discipline. Come on now. Are you teaching discipline in your homes? And to my single black mothers, I want to say thank you for holding the family down, giving the war against black boys. But guess what, sisters? Some of you need to do a better job. Because you know what I'm finding with my single black mothers? You're turning your sons into your boyfriends. I don't mean sexually. I'm talking socially. When mothers don't have partners in the home, the son subconsciously gets elevated to the role of a substitute husband, not sex. I'm talking emotional support. And when you make your son your husband, quote unquote, you can no longer punish him. In fact, he might be punishing you. So I'm telling all my mothers in here, your job is to raise your son, not to spoil him, not to love him to death, but to raise him. We have a crisis where black women are doing a good job raising your daughters and a horrible job raising your sons. He's lazy, he's shiftless, he don't want to do nothing, you don't make him go to school, you spoil him, and I'm trying to understand. Why are black mothers spoiling black boys? When Brother Malcolm X told us, you got to be twice as good to get half as much. Are you going to be on earth forever? Under normal circumstances, you will transition to the ancestors before your son. So if you spoil him, if you broke and crippled his manhood, how are you going to make it after you die when all mama did was spoil me to death? Stop spoiling your sons. You ain't doing nothing but destroying somebody else's daughter's future. Because when that boy meet that girl, he's going to expect his woman to be just like his mother. Nothing but a spoiler and to do everything for him. That's right. A lot of our mothers are making terrible husbands for our daughters. And then we got a nerve to turn around and say, we can't find no good black men. Guess why? You ain't raising none. And black men, I want to hold us accountable for the fact that we are not stepping up to help our single mothers with these black boys. There's no black woman with a son in Alabama who should not have assistance from a man. That's right. That's right. No woman should be struggling raising a boy. We as men have an obligation to raise the boys. In African culture, when they get 12 and 13, we take them from their mom and turn them into men. Why we don't do that in America? Yeah. Why we sit there and watch our sisters struggling to turn boys into men? Because we as American Africans have gotten so selfish in a post-Dr. King age. We do a better job of being white than white people do. So number one, don't send them to college unless they have the discipline. Number two, don't send them to college unless they're majoring in something that's relevant. Too many of our children are going off to college, picking up $60,000 and $70,000 worth of student loan debt, and a degree ain't worth the paper it's written on. I didn't send you to the University of Alabama so you can get a PhD in earthworm technology. You want to study earthworms, you can do that at the public library. A PhD in liberal arts. You want to be so liberal, you'll never find a job. Make sure your children are majoring in degrees that matter. And then you got to stay on top of them. Because what happens is when they get to the University of Alabama and Alabama State, they're going to say, because you graduated from a Huntsville high school, we got to give you a placement test. And your child scores low on the placement test, and your academic advisor at Alabama is going to say, you didn't score high enough to be a pre-law major. You didn't score high enough to be a nursing major. You didn't score high enough to be an engineering major. And then they say, how about be a gym teacher? How about be a probation officer? Nothing's wrong with those professions. But that's not why your child went to college. They went to college for pre-law, pre-med, engineering, nursing. They did not go to be a gym teacher. So a lot of our children are being forced and funneled into professions they're not even interested in. But a lot of you don't know, because once you drop them off, you stop looking after your babies. You have to stay on them. Number three, don't send them to college if they ain't got no sexual discipline. Some of our daughters are thirsty, and some of our sons are thirsty. And I'm tired of working with young people on the college campus who go to school only to get somebody pregnant or to get pregnant. I can't tell you how many young black men and women I know who lost full scholarship, everything paid, dorm paid, classes paid. They even gave them a living stipend, and they lost it all because of their hormones. Brothers and sisters, if they was thirsty in your house, they damn sure will be thirsty on campus. Brothers and sisters, if they barely finish high school in your house, why are you sending them 20,000 miles away just for them to get put on academic probation and flunked out? You know how many parents I see cursing their kids out? I'll put $30,000 on you and you got kicked out. Don't blame him. Blame yourself, because you already knew that boy wasn't ready for college. You already knew that girl wasn't ready for college. Y'all know whether or not you raised your child with self-control and discipline. Y'all know, so what you blaming them for? Let me get back to my special ed. Stop signing paperwork you don't understand, parents. Stop signing paperwork you don't understand. If a school in Huntsville, Montgomery, Selma, Birmingham, Tuskegee, or anywhere else give you a document and you read this and you don't understand what it means, why would you sign it and give it back to the white folks? Before you leave here today, I'm going to give you my personal cell number. You know why? Because after today, I better not hear about a single parent in Huntsville who got met with a situation in public school, whether it was grades, whether it was special ed, whether it was ADHD, whether it was medication, whether it was promotion, discipline, 504, disability rights, and you didn't know what to do, because I'm your own personal school psychologist now. All you got to do is reach out to Dr. Umar, and I will help you through anything you got to get through. But I'm sick and tired of black parents making excuses for how our children are slipping through the cracks because we are not on top of them. Lazy child, lazy parent. Children don't drop out of school until parents drop out of their lives. And I'm going to tell you something else. A lot of our children are struggling in school academically, but it's not because they can't learn. Many of them are bringing family emotional problems into the schoolhouse. Don't get your child tested for special ed when you know the reason he's failing is he want to see his father and you won't let him. Come on, this ain't no academic problem. This is a family issue. Don't act like your daughter need an IEP for reading. The reason your daughter is failing is because she's being sexually abused by a relative and you're not doing nothing about it. You sweeping it under the table. Every day I'm dealing with black parents who try to blame family problems on learning issues.
Uh-oh. That's right.
Your son's father got locked up. You don't want to take him to prison to go see his dad? Of course he's going to go to school acting out. That's not conduct disorder. It's an attachment disruption because he's been separated from a primary caregiver, but because you don't want to take him to see his dad, you want to blame it on special ed. That boy ain't got no reading problem. He got a mama who don't want to take him to jail to see his father. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a big supporter of taking parents to see the other parent incarcerated. Some of y'all say, Dr. Umar, I don't want to take my son to the prison because he's going to get desensitized to jail and it's going to be easier for him to go to jail if I keep taking him up there to see his dad. You damn wrong. There's no research to support that. As someone who worked in a fatherhood program where we would take children to the prison to see their fathers, I can tell you it actually reduces the likelihood of them getting incarcerated, because who better than a father to let your son know this ain't somewhere you want to be. There's nobody better to tell him that than his own father. So take him to the prison, because if you don't, he'll end up joining a gang as a substitute. You know why children join gangs? Because they want families, and many of them ain't got none. What does a gang provide to our children? A gang provides a place to belong. Gang provide identity. Gang provide discipline. Gang provide responsibility. Everything your home should be doing, but it's not doing, the gang is doing. There would be no gangs in black America if black households were healthy and functional. Don't sign nothing you don't understand. Next up, don't go to no school meeting by yourself. Always take somebody with you. Black mothers don't go alone. Black fathers don't go alone. Take somebody with you. You You always need a witness to the conversation in the schoolhouse.
Speak on that, Doc.
Next up, if the child is in 3rd grade or younger, you better have a damn good reason why they get tested for anything except blindness, deafness, brain injury, orthopedic impairment, autism, or speech and language impairment. Why are you letting 5-year-olds get tested for ADHD, 6-year-old tested for reading disability, 7-year-old tested for math disability? Let me tell you a little secret. You can't prove a reading disability at 7. You can't prove a math disability at 6. You can't prove ADHD at 5. So you say, well, the school said they wanted to test them for ADHD at 4. Of course! You know why? The special ed money begins at age 3. The special ed money begins at age 3. Special ed in the United States is age 3 to 21. So of course they want you to get your babies tested so they can start the grade training. Special ed begins at 3. Special ed ends at 21 or high school graduation, whichever happens first. Nothing's wrong with black boys. Black boys can learn as well as white boys can learn. You know what the problem is? Black boys in Alabama, like Pennsylvania, New York, and everywhere else in America, they are twice discriminated against. The